JK and ETN off the board for people, and that vaults Gus Edwards into the spotlight. And I feel like people are overdrafting Gus Edwards a little bit. On the topic of Barkley, we could talk about Barkley too. He's not ready. Do you
know how perfect he would have to be and everything have to go perfect for him to justify his ADP in the first round?
It's crazy. I don't know. Like, I take Naji Harris 100 times out of 100 over Saquon Barkley, and you should see the reactions and the comments I get on it. It's like, are you crazy? Are you mad? I take Gibson. I take Naji Harris. I take all the top five. I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And
you want to hear something? I would take Swift.
I don't go near Swift.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. Smitty. Take a lap. I'm joined by Dr. Jesse Morse to talk injury, whatever we want. It's going to be like a free-for-all heading into week 1, I guess would be the topic. JK and ETN off the board for people, and that vaults Gus Edwards into the spotlight. And I feel like people are overdrafting Gus Edwards a little bit because they're still going to do a sharing type situation there. It doesn't just give Gus Edwards this like monster volume. You know, they got Tyson Williams, Justice Hill. Who do you think is the lead dog mid-season? Do you think it will be Gus? Do you think he'll hold up? What's your injury prognosis on a guy like Gus that's just going to be handed?
He doesn't have, let me pull up my draft guide. He doesn't have a lot of injury risk, if I remember correctly, which sounds kind of funny, but in actuality, the problem is they're always a bell cow community. Like, they're like 60-40, 55-45. And I mean, then you got to remember that's taking out a Lamar. So that's a whole separate discussion. So, and remember that what's his name? Edwards doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, they don't throw the ball a lot, but he doesn't catch. I think he's got like 7 catches.
Yeah. Dude's not going to convert.
It's not like, it's not like you're really going to target him per se.
Right. Overdrafted. Plain and simple.
So, like, to give you an idea, I drafted, I wrote profiles for 40 guys. He wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Before this was, in the offseason.
Yeah, and he was a backup, so that makes sense if you're doing mainly the starters. But
especially if you're a PPR, it's like. But I mean, there was a couple guys that I probably wanted to talk about, like Tariq Cohen and Marlon Mack, that probably weren't relevant per se. But
yeah,
now I mean, when you add J.K. Dobbins, the fact that he's out and the fact that Bateman's out, and Sammy Watkins has never really been able to stay healthy or, for good stretches. You're starting to be like, all right, well, somebody's got to get the rock. Like, you're running out of people here. And they're just going to play catch with Andrews, and hopefully Hollywood doesn't restrain his hamstring.
Yeah, I like Tyson Williams most, given the cost. Like, you could either overpay for Gus, like you said, no catches. I stay away from it. In fact, I've got a lot of people. I've got Dynasty content. I got a bunch of Dynasty followers because I do half Dynasty, half redraft. And one question I'm getting in waves right now relates to, what do I do with JK? I've got Gus and JK, or I just have JK. What can I do? And the best way out in a Dynasty perspective is to trade him for another running back that is going through a little bit of an up and down in terms of news and expectation, and that's Javonte Williams. You got Melvin Gordon potentially banged up, looking at potentially losing his job in week 1 to Javonte. Then all of a sudden, Melvin Gordon kind of creeps back into the news as a guy that's looking like he's going to get more carries than people thought in week 1, but that doesn't scare me off at all because I expect Javonte to be firing on all cylinders by week 3, 4, 5. Could be at halftime in week 1. So one of my big recommends is to trade JK and Gus away for Javonte Williams. And in redraft, I would trade Gus for Javonte Williams in a heartbeat. My question for you is, what are we looking at with J.K. Dobbins in terms of the future? He had the MCL and the ACL, right? So
LCL,
we're looking at
the other stuff.
LCL and the ACL, which is a disastrous situation
that's a bad
for him.
combo.
Yeah, that is a bad combo. And
Give
that
me
LCL,
MCL over LCL. And where's my knee model?
and he didn't completely tear the LCL, right? It's hard to tear that.
Yes. So the LCL is the one on the outside.
Yeah.
How do you tear something on the outside? You have to get hit on the inside.
Yeah.
Well, the other knee's there. You usually don't think of it because the other knee's blocking that.
Right.
That's what happened to Carson Wentz. That's the same injury that Carson Wentz suffered. It's not a common one. The problem is this back corner, the small bone is on the outside. This back corner of the knee is bad. There's so many small little ligaments, tendons. It's very important. But the problem is it doesn't really repair well. So, I mean, it sucks that he tore it regardless, but that is even a harder, hill to climb. So, and if you think about it, and this is kind of going along the Saquon route indirectly. When was the last time a guy came back from an ACL as a running back and looked like he never missed a beat?
AP, and that's it.
I mean, hell, even Dalvin Cook took a year before he looked like. I mean, before we now know what he looked like. Before that, I mean, we haven't had one. So it's like, I know everyone's expecting these young athletic freaks to come back and be like nothing happened, but that's a hard. Everything has to go perfect, and I don't like that. There's too many things that have to go perfect for him to be the same value as this year. Like,
and let me tell you, if anybody thinks the Ravens are going to potentially not add another rookie and then just cloud the situation up, they got another thing coming. They're not just going to wait and say, okay, JK.
They can't. It's too risky.
Yeah. And on the topic of Barkley, we could talk about Barkley too. I think I talked about it last time we talked. I've been a big no Barkley in round one guy. I've been beating that drum for a while, and I get a lot of pushback on it. And it's a lot of Barkley truthers, people that already own him in existing leagues. And I understand the reason and the rationale behind wanting to back him. But to me, and I give you the road in terms of injury, but I do feel like I'm a very well-versed guy, 19 years of covering injuries and stuff. So I feel like I got a good gauge on injury, but I love confirming it with you because then it makes me feel like, okay, I nailed this part. But when you look at a guy like Barkley, one of the most athletic running backs or players we've ever seen, and he had his surgery really early on, and he's still not where he needs to be to where you can confidently say, yeah, I'm good to go. You got to think like there's some kind of setback they're not telling us about. And in today's NFL news world, we don't hear anything until the next year. Oh, he had a cleanup surgery in June that we didn't know about, and they tell us later.
Yeah, there's always something.
What's going through your mind?
They in terms of like old injuries or older injuries that guys are coming back from, unless it's like, hey, why is he not on the field type of thing? Usually they don't like to talk about all that stuff, So like, I wouldn't be surprised if he had additional, stem cells put in there. That's what I would do if it was my knee. I promise you, that's exactly what I would do.
What comes to your mind though when you hear that Barkley doesn't know where he's at a couple weeks back when they ask him, hey, you ready for week one? I don't know where I'm at. I'm going to, take it slow, make sure this is my career here. Also, you're hearing reports today and weeks ago that his week one volume is in question if his availability is even, if he's even available at all. What goes through your mind in terms of why he's not where he needs to be when he's one of the most physically gifted players?
He doesn't trust it yet. He doesn't trust his knee yet.
But why?
So the problem with the ACL is that whenever you have it repaired, it has a little bit more play, a little bit more wiggle than your other knee, than your regular ACL, assuming you don't have another repair.
Right.
So like when you cut, it like does this little move and you're like, whoa, is it going to tear again? It takes a long time to trust that. And that's the problem is that I'll give you a perfect example. Remember when we saw the video the other day of Cortland Sutton do this crazy hard cut? Mm-hmm. Like he literally ran and like jump cut. And then I don't know if you saw it. It was a beautiful cut. And then he just went the other route. And I wrote, I think it was Stefania Bell wrote it. And I wrote, I want to see Saquon do this. Because, it was on his surgically repaired ACL, that knee. And I'm like, I want to see that's confidence where you literally are going hard and you change directions and go the other way. You have to trust that ligament. If you don't trust that ligament, you're not going to do that. You're going to softer. You're going to kind of do this little shimmy or whatever. But I mean, you're not going to literally go hard and then all of a sudden you're cutting it the completely opposite direction. That's the level of confidence that it takes to finally look like nothing ever happened. And a lot of times it takes a year plus to get that. And I don't think he's there yet. And that's okay. That's completely normal. But people don't understand that that's normal.
And the crazy part, though, is like he got 8 live reps, the other day, and people were like, yeah, he's back. But if you watch him, he's very timid. He's in pads. He's not getting hit. It's so different. Like even a wide receiver coming back versus a running back. Running back is taking shots to the knee, 300-pound lineman jumping on his back. It's a completely different thing when a running back's coming back from an ACL tear. There's a lot more cutting going on. And Barkley just... even if he ends up getting on the field and they feed him double-digit carries, he can't possibly be in position to, I think, handle that in a way that's not going to be compensating and cause another potential injury like hamstring, groin.
You know what set the world on fire tonight? And I was so friggin' ready for it. It didn't happen, but I would have should did. If they put him on the pup, the world would have burned.
Right, and it wouldn't have shocked me all that much because that would have.
But the world would have been like they. I'm telling you, they would have freaked out.
Yeah,
we knew Michael Thomas was going on the pup. That was given. But if Saquon went on the pup like Tariq Cohen did,
I think
that went out a little under the radar. I don't know if many people.
I think the part again that's hard to grasp unless we hear something later and then it makes sense that there was a setback. That we watch players time and time again with this much time get to a place where they may not be 100%, but they're saying, look, I'm back, I'm ready. They may, kind of like fake it until they make it, but they pretty much are at a place where they're ready to rumble at this point in time. Barkley looks like he's just barely testing the waters. And so that's what I'm saying. There's got to be, I don't know what's going through your mind other than he doesn't trust it. What is causing the delay? And then we'll leave it at that because clearly I'm trying to find a reason.
I think I don't think he debuts until week 3.
That would put the world on fire as well. Like you're not going to put him on the pup, but you're going to potentially rest him because he's your future. If he's not ready, he's not ready. And everybody pretending he's ready because he's Saquon Barkley and not looking at the actual facts, not looking at him running. When he did those 8 live reps, he made those cuts. They were very, very like nonchalant, like not hard cutting, like you said with Courtland Sutton. And he kept looking down at his knee. Like he's not ready. He's not ready. And
that's what I expected. And that's what people, I'm like, do you know how perfect he would have to be and everything have to go perfect for him to justify his ADP in the first round?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. Like I take Naji Harris 100 times out of 100 over Saquon Barkley. And you should see the reactions and the comments I get on it. It's like, are you crazy? Are you mad? I take Gibson. I take Naji Harris. I take all the top 5. I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And
you want to hear something? I would take Swift.
I don't go near Swift. That's our first disagreement.
All day.
No, Swift.
Dude, if you got 70, 80 targets, if he gets 15, 20 rushes a game.
You know what? I get a lot of pushback on Swift as well. But you got.
I know he's injured. Right now. I'm not super concerned about
he's injury prone to me, and he's already injured, so that I already feel validated on that concern.
But here's the problem: who the hell are they going to throw to?
Okay, we heard.
I know they could lose by like 30, but
we heard this.
Somebody's got to get the ball.
We heard this with Miles Sanders. When I called Miles Sanders the biggest running back bust in round 2 last year, people said Boston Scott. How are they? You know what I mean? So like they're going to find a way. This is a committee approach, and when they call him the B back and they call Jamal Williams the A back, when there's multiple reports, different months spread out, where they're like, we're going to ride the hot hand. Then Campbell said that he's going to use 2 backs. It's been constant running back by committee talk. So here's my concern. You have the injury risk, which I feel is justified right now. We can say that he's banged up. Definitely a worry. You got the workload concern. You've got the fact that they dismantled their entire team, and they're going to have a lot of 3 and outs. They won't sniff the end zone or the red zone near as much as they used to, and they'll be behind a lot throwing the football. I get what you're saying, PPR, but if he's splitting time between him and Jamal, you're talking about splitting PPR work in situations where you're down in the third and fourth quarter and completely phasing out the running game. It seems like a disaster for a team that won't score touchdowns. I mean, they'll be lucky to have 2 or 3 wins. There just seem like a lot of obstacles for a third round ADP. Similar to Barkley at 1, a lot of obstacles. Things got to go perfect for Swift to earn third round ADP. Give me Josh Allen. I'll go cross position and I'll take Josh Allen and have the number 1 overall score.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about in terms of running backs. I would take. So how about we do this?
Okay.
PPR, because that's just in my head. That's what I play more often.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Josh Jacobs or Swift?
Swift.
Right? That's not. And we know Jacobs going to get stupid carries. I mean,
should I say neither?
I mean, that would probably be the best answer, but
give me Javonte Williams over both, and he's not even starting week 1.
So I like Javonte. I definitely have a little bit of. I think where Melvin has a little bit left in the tank. I don't know why. I can't explain really the reasoning. I just think he does.
Yeah. Hey.
But I like Javonte over Michael Carter. I like Javonte as the top running back in terms of rookie. I love Sermon, but I don't think with that.
You like him over? You like Javonte over Harris though?
Oh, sorry, I always forget Harris. I feel
Harris.
like he's in his own league.
Harris is like a veteran already.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him over ETN. I liked him over Harris is like his own tier. Like,
I'll shock you with Harris.
Can't really compare the two.
Let's go Harris next. I'm gonna shock you with Harris. Go ahead.
But and then like people are probably asking about CH's ankle. I got a couple questions today about it. He did suffer an ankle sprain, and it wasn't an easy ankle sprain, but he got lucky, like stupid lucky. I think by the time week 1 rolls around, he'll be good. But it could have been bad. But I just drafted him a little bit ago in an underdog, so I'm in on him. So I'm okay with CEH. But
love CEH. He's gonna get his PPR work. Rookies.
Yeah, I feel like he's a little sneaky this year.
Yeah, very sneaky. He's not going to get phased out. No game scripting CEH out anymore. That was the downfall. He had a good year. People just had high expectations. It was our fault because none of us saw the pandemic hitting the way it did, and all the rookies got taken out from the PPR perspective. But yeah, so go ahead. Melvin Gore, we're talking about Javonte. Melvin Gordon, what feeling do you get about him staying healthy, though?
So I have a little intel that I can't share. I'll just leave it at that.
That's helpful.
But just know that indirectly the reason why I know it. But but I feel like there's still some left in the tank. But he's starting to get somewhere and tearing his tires. But he's one of those guys that he's not a Gore where he's going to be around for eternity. But I still think he's got a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years left in him. But I think he still be effective, but they will definitely use Javonte, no question. But honestly, I think he still works enough at the offense to be effective. And then if Javonte screws up, he misses a block, he does something stupid, unless Melvin gets another DUI, I think we'll be okay.
See, I do worry about when he gets into the lineup and gets full type workload. Even if he's sharing a little bit, that's fine. Every running back's going to share. But they drafted him near first round, top of the second, very top of the second, and he's got such a good skill set. This guy's probably the second or first best pass protecting running back in the draft class. So that's a very big plus that goes completely unnoticed and overlooked. And he's a good receiving back. He's explosive. I think Gordon's like a 3.9 yard per carry running back. He needs volume. And I think if he's not getting volume, if he doesn't get volume, like if they do a divide, I think he'll be outshined by Williams, and then they'll shove Williams in eventually. That's kind of the way I look at it. But it's
that's always been Melvin's issue is he needs volume in order to justify his
3.9
potency or what he doesn't have that Aaron Jones 5.5 or whatever the hell it is. Crazy.
It's gonna
So what's your take on this New Orleans offense now?
I'll be honest, man. I was pushing a little bit toward the direction of Taysom Hill until I saw Callaway break out and become force-fed by Winston, and I'm quickly buying into Winston being very, very good for this offense, and that's something that I'm going to have to change directions on because I didn't think Winston was going to impress me after kind of not being a starter for a while, and I thought he just looked too rusty and not have it anymore. But in this offense, it fits perfectly, and Callaway's going to be.
I agree, but I'll give you some insider info, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but. I talked with another player that knows him and knows how he thinks, and he basically said this was before, this was a couple months ago, and he said one of the issues that concerns me about Jameis is his decision making. He's like, I don't think he ever grew up,
right?
And remember, he was super young when he came out. And he's like, I just don't, and there's certain things that you just either you have and you learn or you don't. He's like, I don't think he ever learned it. Maybe
arrested development or something.
Maybe he learned it over the past year under the tutelage of Peyton and Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Maybe that's what it took to get his head on straight, fixed his eyes. We know he always had a cannon. There's no question about that. But I mean, I knew Callaway was going to be sneaky, and he's actually he was one of my top sleeper wide receivers 10 or 12 days ago. So the video was out before he ever went exploded. Now it looks like I joined the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. But the problem is they don't have a whole lot of offense. Troutman's banged up with an ankle. Traquan Smith. I mean, hopefully he can stay healthy. Troutman's banged up. I mean, they have Kamara, they have Callaway, and then, I don't know, maybe they'll use Taysom as a tight end. I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
He's practicing only as quarterback, but they may revert back to something like that. But Callaway and Mike Thomas are a really sneaky wide receiver 3 because you can kind of cuff them together. And with Mike Thomas going on the pup list, that's going to, I think, make people even draft him further back. So you draft Callaway, I don't know, round 8. I mean, I'm taking him that high. I don't care. I'll take him a little high so someone doesn't get cute and grab him from me. I think this guy could be a top 15 wide receiver.
He has top 20 potential. You put him with Jameis, and then Jameis just gunslings it. He could easily go off for 8 for 190 and 3.
Yeah.
Crazy
let me
number.
put it this way. I wouldn't be. I'm expecting top 15 wide receivers. It's expected from me, but I wouldn't be shocked if we saw something where he's flirting inside the 10, the 8 to 12. This guy is special, and when you watch, it's not just that he tripped and fell into 104 yards on 5 catches, 5 for 5. For 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. He manhandled his way into those 2 touchdowns.
He took over that game, no question.
And I think that I've seen enough. It only takes a little bit sometimes for me to see talent in a guy. Arian Foster, he was unrestricted free agent, came in, I believe it was 2010, and 2009 maybe was his rookie year, 2010. And he came in and he played just week 16 and week 17. And all I needed to see were those 2 games and him working as the starter.
He came out of nowhere and he looked great.
I dropped a bold prediction on CBS, or actually it was NBC Sports Radio then, on the world's longest running fantasy football radio show that I did for 19 straight years. And I dropped the bold prediction there saying that guy, as a 5th and 6th round pick, it was February, March, April, that would be a top 1 to 5 overall player and top 5 running back in 20, I think it's 2010. And so I every once in a while have those feelings about a guy. I could be wrong, but you're running you're running more of a risk of not taking a stab at him at his cost than you are investing in him. So if you want to play the old he's probably not going to be it. You're overemphasizing this. That's fine. And if I miss, Cost me nothing. Cost me an 8th rounder.
Exactly. So that's a very high ceiling, pretty low risk.
Yeah. Like,
so here, my best ball I did an hour ago. Jameis, Mack, Taysom, Kamara, CEH, Moss, Alex Collins, F1, Judy, Antonio Brown, Callaway, Michael Thomas, Jacoby, Traquan Smith, Nico Collins, Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith, Troutman.
Nice.
I mean, if New Orleans does anything half bad, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, and with that New Orleans offense, because as long, you have to get Kamara, like that's it. You have obviously, but like you can get the rest of the offense is cheap.
Yeah, and now Tony, what's his name? Jones, Tony Jones, the backup running back.
I got sniped.
He looks like he's probably going to be the backup at some point, if not right away. So if anybody's wondering if it's Lat Murray or Tony Jones, it's probably Tony Jones. But in deep leagues, you might have to grab both and wait a week and make your decision on who you cut as the backup. But you need to cuff Kamara, very, very important. But Kamara, 81 receptions, 81 receptions, 81 receptions, 83. He's the definition of consistency in PPR. And I consider him a workhorse. I define workhorse differently than most people. It's about volume to me. It's not about carries.
He's actually my RB1. Yeah, I know before this all happened.
Yeah.
He was my RB1 2 weeks ago.
He's my 2. I definitely have McCaffrey 1, but I have Zeke Elliott as my surprise 2 or 3. Surprise 3.
I think he's up there for me. I love Zeke this year. I think he's got an axe to grind. I think that offense, as long as Dak looks like he should, I mean, that defense is still not good. So I don't think that offense is going to be as good as it was the first 5-6 weeks or whatever. But I mean, it won't be. I don't think it's going to be far off. If you or I had our ankle rolled on, we might escape it and be okay. If Dak has that surgically repaired ankle, both sides of that ankle, hardware on one side, screws on the other. If he had that thing rolled up on, is there no shot in hell that thing's holding up? So no, I'm confident it'll hold up. I'm more concerned about his mobility. And even I had Dr. Parekh, who he does these surgeries. He's a foot and ankle surgeon at Duke, and he's like, and he's a Cowboys fan. He's like, I need to see him be confident in that ankle before I can say he's going to be the same player. Like, that's a bad injury. I mean, him and Michael Thomas's injuries weren't that different. Thomas should have had surgery right away. Alex Smith's surgery was a whole nother freaking level planet, so you can't really compare the two. But like Dak's injury was bad.
Yeah,
but
it was career.
I mean, because of that, it's more for me. It's more so that medial ankle, that the inside of the ankle where he tore that bad ligament, the thick ligament. The fracture is fine. I'm not worried about the fracture. He will have some injuries to the cartilage, which is eventually going to cause arthritis and some range of motion issues, and that just you can't fix. But the question is how much, and we won't know until we see it. He may just be hesitant to run, and running is kind of not a big part of his plan. But I mean, it's definitely part of his game. I mean, look at the numbers from last year. He had 4 rushing touchdowns or something in 6 games. I mean, that's a lot of touchdowns.
I just feel like if he gets rolled up on, the hardware, that whole side of that ankle, it scares me a little bit, but. It scares me enough to bump him down below Herbert and Kyler, but not much further than that. You know what I mean? Like,
I love Herbert. I know people say he might regress.
I don't think so.
That kid is something else, man. I'm telling you, he is special.
MVP conversations, man. He's going to be.
I like that offense.
He could be number 3 quarterback.
I really like that offense.
I wouldn't be shocked if he threw with the extra game 40 plus TDs. Pretty easily and MVP consideration. I really love Herbs this year. We love him on the channel.
Who's your number one sleeper that is not even number one sleeper, like your sleeper tight end that you don't feel like gets any love?
Well, I'll give you 2. One, Higbee. Higbee would be a guy you're grabbing late. And we saw what Stafford did with Hawkinson. He used to get a lot of love, and then he kind of fell out of love. So. Yeah, you get him way in double-digit rounds.
Now, you used to have to reach for him.
Yeah, I would say the one tight end that's getting no respect that should, and like I always say with him, that when a tree falls and no one hears it, did it really fall? I feel like when a player breaks out and no one notices, Did they really break out? No. So his breakout season is going to be this year. But Logan Thomas, Logan Thomas was the number 3 tight end, and he gets drafted in the 9th and 10th and 11th round. It's like, did anybody notice that I didn't at first either. I had somebody have me look up the stats one time when I was like, I didn't know if he finished 5th or 6th, and he was like, he was number 3.
Oh no, he was. So here, and actually all 3 of those. So the problem with the tight ends every year is like there's like 2 or 3. There's one, and then there's like a couple that are kind of close, and then there's like this cliff, right? Or like, oh my God, it's like 5, 6, 7 points a game difference between them. If you watch the Washington football game, the first one, and I think the second one, I know it was at least the first one, Fitzmagic targeted Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
He looked for him. And you could see, and we know he's a gunslinger like they come. So, like, I think that's a great pick. There's another guy I just feel like mentioning because I don't feel like he gets much love. And you're like, oh, he came out of nowhere. He's going to fade into dust. And that's Robert Tanyan. Like, what?
11 TDs, 4th overall.
So, but here's the counterpoint that, he's not going to get the volume. Who did they add? Who does Rodgers trust? He has a very short trust chain, right? He doesn't throw to many guys.
What makes people even say that? Like, that's just a dumb thing to say. He'll regress without even any information. Like, they didn't build the report till a little bit into the season. Granted, it was kind of early on still, but Tanyan didn't get like starter run fully, or the looks that, he got later. So imagine with a full year what Tanyan's going to do. Like,
there's a couple guys that I really love.
Yeah.
I can't. So there's 2 that you have one that you have to reach for and one that you can find late that I still think has massive potential, and it was reassured today. The first one is Hawkinson, just like we talked about with volume and just how potentially awful that offense is going to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got like 160 targets if he stays healthy, which is insane. And then Jonnu Smith.
See, I'm not on Jonnu, but I am on Hawkinson. Actually, at Fantasy Pros, I had Hawkinson higher than any analyst in the industry on Fantasy Pros last year.
5 or 6? I think it's 5 or 6.
Yeah, so I was 1 in tight end rankings in 2020 and 2018. So I love the breakout tight end conversation, and you've got a grip.
I'm going to try to sell you on Jonnu.
Okay, sell me.
Belichick never spends money in free agency, ever. He never had any money to spend. He overpaid and went out of his way to get Jonnu. Belichick is a very few words, and most of the time it's some bullshit. Like, you don't even know what the hell. It's just some vague comment. He has been adamant about Jonnu and his ability to run after the catch. It's like he said it at least 2 or 3 times already. They're going to do jet sweeps. They've already done a couple jet sweeps with him. Mac can put the ball. I don't know if you have a chance to watch.
I do like Mac with him now.
It
makes me like him more.
He puts the ball. His ball placement is incredible. I'm like, this kid is a rookie. Like, his ball placement is crazy. And so I feel like that's going to help. And then the offense will be able to move the ball. Like, last year, Cam is so restricted, didn't know the offense. They were like, well, we don't have to worry about him throwing the ball, so we're going to stack the box. They didn't even have, I think Matt Lacrosse was one tight end. Devin Asiasi couldn't stay healthy, and he was a rookie. They didn't have any tight ends. Now they have 2 that are pretty good or really good. Hunter Henry, I think, is slept on. I'm not ready to give up Jacoby Myers. I love Jacoby Myers. I think he has top 30 potential. The kid just is like
Henry. I can guarantee you. Let me ask you this real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you. If you have to be within 3 games, you have on either side of this. How many games? Life on the line. How many games does Hunter Henry play in 2021? You have to be within 3 games either side.
8.
Okay.
I just got this feeling he struggles to stay healthy.
Give me 5. So that's good for Jonnu, though.
He's already banged up. He's got a.
He can't stay healthy. He can't. It's impossible.
I have to look at my list.
But that's good for Jonnu. if he ends up like not.
So
being
there's one guy that I'm not ready to give up on yet. I mean, not yet, but like it's not Herndon. Don't get me started on him.
Jared Cook?
No, it's his partner in crime.
Okay,
but I do like Cook.
I do kind of like if he's got a little left. I like Cook because Herbert needs him.
Parham.
Who?
Parham. Donald Parham, the other tight end. You don't know who it is, do you? Look at Donald Parham. He's the Chargers' second tight end. He is of XFL fame.
What about McKitty?
Look, I'm telling you, watch Parham's tape. He's 6'8" or 6'9". He reminds me of Waller. It's a crazy comp, I'm telling you. He's 24. He's young, 23, 24. He's ginormous. He's got great hands. We saw last year that he caught some balls and started getting some love. And I heard rumblings that there's a decent rapport with Herbert. I don't know. I'm telling you, if there's a late dart,
maybe
don't sleep on Parham.
Maybe
I'm
in Dynasty.
right now.
Maybe in Dynasty, I'll take a look.
He's dirt cheap. He's literally like, he's not even drafted half the time.
Yeah, I think McKitty.
Or like way down.
I mean, one of those guys. Let's say it's him. Let's say it's Parham. Let's say it's one of those guys is going to be either McKitty or Cook, but Parham's 3, I think, on the depth chart. But maybe McKitty ends up doing something too. But one of those tight ends, whoever it is, whoever Herbert locks on to.
It could be all three. I mean, we know Keenan Allen's going to get his. We know Eckler's going to get his.
Josh Palmer.
I hope Mike Williams can stay healthy with that. I think he's playing the X, right?
But if not, Josh Palmer is going to step up.
And then Palmer. I mean, you got Guyton, who's like just a kind of a Djax type of player, and then Palmer. I mean, this offense is like a lot of what I call toys. They have a lot of weapons.
Eckler, you worried about?
I mean, we know Herbert can hit him. The dude can hit 50-yard bombs, like not even trying.
You like Eckler a lot. You've told me, and we never talked about it. We never redid our show.
And it's not even because his love for like the fantasy community is like one of us, but he's happened to play the game. But I mean, I don't know how much they're going to use him as a rusher, but my God, if he doesn't get 8 targets a game.
But what makes you feel confident with his ability to stay healthy, though? Because he does feel like I like him a lot. I really do like him, but I do worry that he's not.
If you look at his history, he stayed really healthy. Last year was his only injury in 4 years.
So the concern,
and the other thing is that was a bad hammy. Most guys would have been done for the year. He came back and had like a very, very good season.
That's true. But my concern would be that he
could have re-injured it. He could have been done for the year.
Yeah.
He could have nicky-nack like CMC and just had this new friggin' other injury. And that team wasn't very good. I mean, they were good, but they weren't that good, like where they were playing. But he won. He was adamant about coming back. And they were like, oh, they're going to baby him. No, dude got like 20 touches in his first game back. I'm like,
it was very weird how quickly that was absolutely unbelievable. Like, you got to wonder what injection he got on that. But what I do feel like, though, the part that worries me, if there's a part that worries me, and I don't take him in round 1, I take him in round 2, and I'm comfortable with that. But the part that makes me not want to take him in round 1 is that he was so effective in his old role where he's catching 100 balls, running for 300 yards, something like that. Yeah. Transitioning him over to the full-time between the tackle role worries me because we haven't ever seen him do it, and I just worry that he's not built for that, and getting injured and not really delivering up to the standards we all expected in his first year doing it worries me enough to say, hey, let's pump the brakes and see him do it.
Look at his numbers. In the 4 games that Melvin Gordon was on suspension or hiatus, whatever you want to call it, he was very good. They're still going to use Kelly. They're still going to use Jackson. I think Jackson's got a groin injury, though. So, but in general, I think I have Eckler at 5 or 6. I know it's crazy, but I just got this feeling that he's a monster, and especially if they treat him like a Kamara. If they treat him like Kamara, it's going to be crazy.
My guy that I'm way too high on as well, like that, is Naji Harris. I've been preaching lately. I've gone back and forth, admittedly, on where I think people should draft him. I did pump the brakes when DeCastro was cut. I'm like, hey, let's put him at 13 overall. Let's not push him into the round one. And you always hear the Clyde comparisons. What about Clyde? You can't draft this guy in the first round. We should have learned our lesson. Clyde busted on us. Last year has nothing to do with this year. And this guy's already embedded in the PPR aspect of everything. He's learned pass protection. Clyde didn't. None of the rookies did. I think Naji Harris should be drafted at number 8, number 7, number 9 overall. If your plan of attack is to get a running back and the big guns are off the board, I take Naji over Chubb. I take Naji over JT. I take Naji over Aaron Jones. I think Naji Harris is going to he's going to dance with the top 5 total touches in the NFL in 2021. I'm worried about a rookie wall, but that's the only worry I have about this guy.
So I was with you until Jones. I could make the justification that Jones deserves to be higher because he's done it, because the role is solidified, and because he continues to put up these monster rushing averages, yards per carry, which sounds silly, but I mean, dude averaged like 5.5 yards per carry like 3 years in a row. Like, that's not fluky at this point.
He needs the TDs though, which he gets, but he needs it.
I mean, but overall, I mean, Bakhtiari scares me a little bit, but I think that there's not a big difference between Jones and Harris. Like, I think the volume is going to be there. Here's the thing: every what we wanted James Conner to be in Pittsburgh is what Naji Harris is. I honestly think that the problem with James Conner is he's never stayed healthy. They would have given him 30 touches a game. Like, that's what they want to do.
I think Harris is going to be top 5. A top 5 running back. I really, really do. I think
Where do I have him?
Volume,
he's up there. I know he's up there.
The volume is just going to be there. He's going to be a volume king, and he's shown a lot of promise already in the passing game. I know Big Ben is going to target him a ton.
Oh yeah, and he's definitely going to be targeted.
And Big Ben looks better than I thought he was going to look, which gave me that extra bump. Like I realized it's a long year. Big Ben did good and then tailed off last year, so he's a year older. I fully expect him not to play like a young Big Ben the whole year, but the fact that he looked very mobile and he looked pretty darn good, it gave me the little bump I needed to say, you know what? I don't care. First of all, I don't care what anybody thinks anyways, but I don't care if I get, looks or eye rolls or chuckles in a draft if I'm going Naji Harris at 8 overall. I'll take Naji Harris at 8 overall all day long. I won't hesitate.
You know where I have him? I'm looking at my rankings right now.
And you know why? Because to me, instead of going wide receiver there, I don't like Nick Chubb there. He shares carries. I worry about injury with Chubb. I like Harris and Ridley, Harris and Justin Jefferson, or Harris and versus going like Adams, who I think Ridley can contend with anyway, and then I get the running back I want where I want him.
So the problem with that late first is that you have to make a decision. Well, I mean, you have to make a decision anyway, but are you going to bite the bullet with Kelsey? But then you're not getting a true QB wide receiver 1 or a true late first round running back, right? You have to pick your poison. Or do you go elite wide receiver and then pick up whoever is available on the way back?
If I knew Clyde would be there, I would go Adams Clyde. But I'd never draft Kelsey in round 1. I won't. It's just
the only time I did it was in Scott Fishbowl because of the crazy settings.
Yeah.
And between the Superflex and the TE Premium, and like there was just a lot of variables. I was like,
give me Ridley. Give me Ridley and Logan Thomas later. Ridley and Logan Thomas. I don't mess with Kelsey in 1.
So I think we've talked about my crazy takes on Dalvin Cook, and everybody hates me for it, but I don't care. But when he goes down with injury, they'll remember me.
Well, we're both. I don't know if you remember. We're both on that same page of like he was carried off the field. He was out for the season in a coffin. They were nailing it shut like 4 times last year.
Oh,
I own him and I owned him in like 8 leagues, so I know. I held my breath on every carry. And that guy with the shoulder, I don't see how he plays a full season. He barely did last year.
And no one plays a full season. That's the problem. That's where they go, oh, nobody plays a full season. I mean, except Derek Herring. And now, CMC is now part of the concern. But so for me, I can't get over JT. I think the volume, the Hines thing scares me a little bit. But I think he's enough of a monster, and that offensive line is ridiculous. I think he does enough to stay in the top 8.
I can see it. I can't do it myself. I can see it. I think Wentz going down, Nelson going down, put it.
They'll be ready for week 1.
They'll be
ready.
Yeah. But I'm saying when they did, it put things into perspective. Like, if Wentz goes down, this is a 3-and-out team constantly. They won't get near the red zone. They won't get near the goal line. And so JT's going to have to do a lot with a little. And then they're going to get phased out because they're going to be throwing the football. And what are they going to do when they don't have Wentz in there and they've got their last quarterback in there? Who are they going to trust with pass protection? Probably Hines. So you got to think if the third and fourth quarters, if he's game scripted out, what's going to happen? So that worries me enough to avoid him in round 1. But I'm coming back around. Like, let's say they sign Cam. I'd feel a lot more comfortable that they at least have a backup plan in place because I do not think Wentz will stay healthy. Like, if we were to play the same game.
There's definitely concerns there. No question.
Same game. Life on the line. You got to be within 3 games. How many games does Wentz play?
9.
So
which
at least
is
6
a weird
games.
Number, but I mean so that basically means he's gonna miss 8 games. You're basically telling him to play half the season.
What happens to JT at that point? You know what I will say? I will say this, and this goes a little bit against what I'm saying because the odds of Wentz staying healthy later in the year is a lot worse than him staying healthy at the beginning. But I don't know. I guess he could miss week 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, he could get hurt. I think JT will be one of the better buy lows in 2021. I think he starts off disappointing. I don't think he gets the touchdown volume that he needs. And you could swoop in, buy him low, and he could potentially finish on a tear. That's kind of how I feel. You what?
I think that plays a role too.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I have one concern. The only other guy that we talked about that we haven't talked about that I have above Najee is Antonio Gibson.
I love Gibby. You're going to get no complaints.
His toe concerns me a little bit. Okay, I'll give you that. That I don't. If that was a mild turf toe, we're good. But if that was a moderate turf toe, and he didn't get it addressed surgically, which he didn't, we're going to see this again. But if it was mild, we're good, and that just I have him as number 8. With that understanding, he had a mild injury. If he's moderate, he's in the 15 or 18 range. It's that big of a deal. He's going to miss 4 to 5 games if he has moderate. That's just what it's going to come down to. Remember Devontae here a couple years ago. Like, that's what happens. That's what Patrick Mahomes had. That's why it looked like he didn't even have a leg in the whole Super Bowl. Like, that was a bad turf toe. That's what happens. And then I think everybody was a little worried about Demont and like, oh, Cohen's going to be he's on pop. Come on, stop it. Damian Williams, okay, he's a good backup. Okay, but I think Demont showed enough last year with his receiving abilities, and he was actually really good.
And chip on his shoulder.
And he's got a lot to prove. We heard that. And I think if/when Fields is in, I think that opens up an offense enough where they're like, all right, we can't stack the box. We ain't got to worry about
Fields will help
doing something stupid.
Fields will help Monty a ton.
But there's a lot of that second kind of level, that second latter half of the first round, or your second, third tier, I guess would be that pie. There's some guys that could easily if a couple things break right, you're talking, 8 to 10 range, 7, 8, 9. I mean, I know I could make a case. It has to be a perfect case, but I can make a case that Swift is up there. It's probably not going to happen, but there's a way. I could make the same case for Darrell Henderson, but most people don't have him no even remotely close. I'm out on Miles Sanders. Nick Chubb could go bananas. I just feel like he's a little bit of injury risk, and he just doesn't catch enough passes, despite rushing a stupid amount of yards. And then Dalvin's obviously up there. People have him in the top 3. I have him at 10. I just think he misses a couple too many games to put up the numbers to be a top 5 guy. I mean, points per game he'll be there, but and then CEH is kind of that other guy that I'm like, he could easily finish at 9, and I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. But I have him at 14 because that's where he fell.
Okay, closing out the show, medium sleeper breakout, either one, sleeper or breakout, medium name. Like it could be, he's well known, everybody wants him, but you think he's going to be even bigger and better than people think. Like mine would be CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, everybody wants Lamb.
Yeah.
The guy's on fire. As much as I want to put him in the top 10, I keep putting him in like 14. Which I know. I have him. I don't draft him here, but I think he's gonna be top 5. I could see it, but I mean, he would have to be a freaking target monster. I mean, monster. Okay, the guy that I'm super high on for wide receivers is Keenan Allen.
If he stays healthy, he's gonna beast out.
For the most part, he's been able to stay healthy the last several years. He's had a weird career. He had a bad couple of years. The ACL, he had a bad couple of years, but he's been really good. I think he had I have to remember it was a hammy. I think it was a hammy last year. I think Pitts is a mismatch freaking nightmare. I mean, if you saw what he did the other day, he wasn't even in there for a lot.
Yeah.
I think he scores more points than Kittle. People aren't going to be happy about that, but I think it's possible.
No, it's easily possible. I think he's the number 1 dynasty tight end. I think he's already there.
I think that Damian Harris is a top 20 running back.
Okay.
The offensive line is ridiculous. They average 6.5 yards per carry in the preseason. You saw that Mac can throw the ball, so they can't stack the box anymore. I think J-Rob ends up at 20, somewhere around there.
Give me a deep sleeper.
Oh, deep. Okay.
Like it doesn't have to be like an unknown guy, but like I'll give you an example of one. Like I think AJ Dillon.
You want someone who's going to blow your mind? This is like off the deep end, and people are going to call me crazy, but it's okay. There are 3 San Francisco running backs that finish in the top 35. Who's the third?
Well, Elijah Mitchell has a ton of upside.
Jermichael Hasty.
Okay. Hasty's got some upside, and they like him.
He broke his collarbone last year. That's what
they like him a lot. I think AJ Dillon's my must-own sleeping giant running back. I worry about.
Okay.
Aaron Jones has had trouble staying healthy in the past. He's shaken the injury label lately. I do give him that, but he did have a tough time staying healthy for the beginning part of his career. And I think AJ Dillon, in a worst case scenario, consumes about 8 to 10 total TDs if he never starts a game. And if he starts a game, watch out. He's going to tear it up.
He's a big boy. I'm curious to see what he can do. I think that I'm trying to think of ones that are like crazy. I think Joe Mixon's, I have him at 27. So
I think Mooney could be good. Mooney could be really good.
I do like Mooney. I have him. I think, okay. Who's your number 1 rookie wide receiver in this class?
Devonta Smith.
So here's the problem. I like 3, but I think because of volume, it's going to be Smith. who is the most impressive, and then who is the most valuable based on where he's being drafted right now?
I think Jamar
in my mind, those are two different answers.
I think Jamar Chase is getting way blown out of proportion, that he's not separating, that he's going to struggle. I think Jamar Chase is going to be really, really good. But I think Devonta Smith is just a better player, better talent. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver, like pretty much locked in my mind. I think Elijah Moore is going to turn some heads. He's hungry. He's got that, like, I'm going to be the guy that surprises everybody in the wide receiver draft class. But it's going to come down to those three guys for me. Elijah
Moore, most valuable right now. The guy who impresses us the most, Rondelle Moore.
I love Rondelle. You know, Rondelle Moore can out squat almost most linemen in the NFL.
I mean, some guys are just freaks like that.
Yeah, he can out squat him.
Can do it.
His vertical is insane. He also got his 4-year degree in 2 years. Very intelligent. And
I think he does the Larry Fitz role.
Like
watch out. I'm telling you, watch out. This offense, we thought they were going to be bananas last year. This could be it this year.
Yeah, Rondelle Moore has a lot of AB to his game, a lot of Antonio Brown.
And I like AB. I mean, I know but I think AB is one of those guys that can pull off that second career, and you're like, what? I think AB is one of the few guys that can do it.
Yeah, he's a good cuff to either Evans or Godwin too, because if one goes down,
and he's got I think him and Brady develop a rapport.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. All right, Dr. Jesse Morse. Find him on Twitter at Dr. Jesse Morse. I have it right on screen there. And we got to do this more often. Maybe we'll do like a check-in every couple weeks and do a little like random heading into week 4. We'll just call it a heading into whatever week it is, and we'll just do a little series on that.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, man.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. I'm Smitty.